All right, guys, welcome back to another New Legacy podcast. I got Vikram Raya with me.
What's
right
up,
here.
Zune?
Yes, sir.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Welcome to Miami.
Yeah.
So he just flew, he literally just got off the airplane, and we're in a hotel. And he was doing his event for the weekend. Run through the podcast real quick.
Absolutely, man. You've been blowing up the airwaves, man, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
We're here in beautiful Miami in the freezing, frigid cold January 2024. And people are flying from all over the country to attend our live mastermind event, which is starting right now downstairs at the hotel lobby bar, which we're going to join right after this podcast.
Yes, sir. How do you say? I love the way you guys run the mastermind. It's like all cut out. I saw all the cut out, and it's like jam packed. It's like a Tony Robbins event.
Yeah, man. I want them to have 10x the value that they invested either with the coaching or with the, at just attending the live event.
Yeah. Were you always from Washington, or where are you from?
I was born in India. My mom and dad came here from India when I was 2. Mm-hmm. And, we grew up all over the United States, just a middle-class family, working hard, immigrant family. We lived in Atlanta, Texas, Augusta, Kansas City, North Carolina, Cary, Jefferson City, Missouri. So a lot of moving, a lot of, I had to be very quick on my feet. I had to be street smart. We eventually settled down in Atlanta. So Atlanta's hometown. Mm-hmm. And then when I went into the medical field, I wanted to be a cardiologist, and I wanted to be an internal medicine doctor first in my family, and then I chose cardiology because I had 6 people, Zune, in my family who died of heart attacks right after another, and so that really affected me. And I was like, dude, I got to figure out what I can do to help my own family and people like my family all over the world or all over the country, and so that's why I chose cardiology.
Wow. And did you have any challenges growing up as an Indian American in America?
Yeah, I mean, now it's sort of cool to be Indian, I guess, but back then it wasn't, We'd bring only 1 or 2 kids in your classroom and something like that. And so, I mean, I've been beat up, I've been, pushed around, I've been made fun of, maybe, either for being Indian or for just being different, Mm-hmm. But I think it created a little bit of an edge, which has helped me in business and life.
Yeah, it's like a little chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Like I gotta prove them.
Yeah, I gotta prove to people, hey, what am I about? What am I here for? What am I trying to achieve? And people have counted me out most of my life.
Yeah.
At least the first half of my life.
Yeah.
And now it's nice. The second half, it's been good to, prove them wrong.
It's crazy because I know your work ethic is really good, especially if you're an immigrant, first generation.
Yes.
You
got that immigrant edge. One of my mentors, Bedros, talks about this immigrant edge. I don't care if you're from Armenia, you're from Europe, you're from Southeast Asia, but this immigrant edge is like sort of a secret weapon because you just push yourself so hard just because you have no choice sometimes, and just because the cards are stacked against you, and that's usually what drives success. I mean, Elon Musk, the guy's an immigrant from South Africa, and boom, figured out a way to get into the U.S. and now he's the owner of $1 trillion company.
Yeah, he just hustled his way all the way into it. So tell me a little bit more about your mission. Why did you do all this mastermind? Why do you have this coaching company?
Yeah. So it was not my initial intention. My initial intention was, the dream was to be a doctor, to be a cardiologist. And then it's interesting, sometimes your dreams are not your destiny. And so I was like, all right, well, I hit my goals, but is this all there is, right? And what I noticed was the people in my profession, the doctors I already, quote unquote, established, we call them attendings, they were hustling for money instead of hustling for their patients. They were doing things to bring home a bigger paycheck, and they were in sort of a hamster wheel rat race that I didn't see when I was first exploring this field. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's so unfortunate, because we're supposed to do it for the honor, for the love, for the impact. Yeah. And then I was like, all right, well, I want to do something different. So I still want to practice, but I don't want to do it. I don't want my money to come from there. So then I started getting curious. And I think that's the number one thing people need to do. They need to get curious of what else is out there, because you're told one thing by your teachers, by your parents, by your counselors and everybody. Hey, there's this is the path. This is what you follow, and don't veer from the path. Mm-hmm. But Zune, what I realize is, man, there's so many paths.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of define your own journey. And so let's go do that. So I started reading all the Kiyosaki books. I started learning about, other streams of income. I learned about passive cash flow. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go into something else. And so I started doing options tradings. Like I got a options coach because I always believe in coaching because, look, Olympic athletes have coaches, Navy SEALs have coaches, like presidential candidates have coaches, on like how to speak even. So why not us if we're trying to achieve something in life? So I thought, hey, let me get someone who knows what they're doing so I don't lose all my money. But I got my butt kicked doing options trading. And so I'm like, this is too hard for me. I don't even understand it. So then I was like, all right, well, for the last 5,000 years, people have been making money in real estate. I think I can figure real estate out, And so I started buying single family homes with my dad in Atlanta, even though I was in DC. And that was my first venture into being a business owner and my first real estate business. And then that led me to, while still practicing, and that led me to start exploring, hey, what else is out there in terms of medicine? And then I realized that I really don't want to just treat people with pills, right? Like instead of treating people with, if there's an ill, you give them a pill, or these are just band-aids for the situation. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to figure out, hey, why did the person get fat, obese, blood pressure high? Why did they develop cancer? And so once I figured out it's their lifestyle, and if you address the lifestyle, if you go upstream, you can cure them or prevent it from happening in the first place. And so then I trained myself in something called functional integrative medicine. And I launched a career in that. And I used real estate as a hedge so I didn't have to worry about my money while I was taking a risk.
Your playbook is smart. Like it's boom, done.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than some of the people I interview. They gamble, made a bunch of winning, and started a company.
Entrepreneurship is a gamble, especially if you don't know what you're doing. That's why you need coaches. That's why you need mentors. That's why you need a game plan, a blueprint, a strategy. You need to model yourself after the best. And that's exactly what my company does with Limitless MD. So, now we're at the stage where, okay, I'm working full time as a cardiologist. I have 2 kids soon. I am married. My wife's a physician as well. And I'm starting this real estate venture with my father, and we ended up accumulating about 30 homes, doing rehabs and buy and holds. And then I was scared. I was sort of worried, but I knew that I had to do something beyond just being a traditional doctor and just be part of the problem versus the solution. I wanted to go upstream and help prevent, reverse, and cure disease. And so I launched my clinic in 2017. It was called the Vitology Institute. It was a boutique concierge clinic, and we had tremendous success. I mean, one of the most highlights, if I could share with you, is in my office, I had this big glass jar, see-through jar, where everyone would dump their pills after they went through my program because they didn't need them anymore. I got them off their pills. I got them off their insulin, the blood pressure medications, their cholesterol medications. You name it, it was in that jar. So I spent my first half of my medical career putting people on meds. I spent the second half taking them off. It was amazing. And then COVID hit. And it was at that point that I had to shut my clinic down because we're not allowed to open. I converted into an online business. At the same time, I was transitioning my real estate from single family homes. I started thinking, hey, what's next? And that's a common theme for people who are entrepreneurial, who want to grow, who want to be big, who want to be epic, who want to have a legendary life. They always ask that question, what's next and how do I scale? And so I thought, I need more units. I need to do bigger, better things. And so I learned multifamily. I learned syndications. I learned how to buy large apartment buildings. And initially I was like, there's no freaking way to do this. In fact, I was trying to recruit a buddy of mine who eventually became my business partner, Ravi. I was like, hey, dude, let's buy 100 unit. He's like, there's no way. How are you going to buy 100 unit? Dude, we can't even buy a 10 unit. How are you going to buy 100 unit? Yeah. And we finally figured it out, and we just we went to a boot camp and we talked to some people, read some books, and we're like, all right. And then after 2 years of struggling to try to pick up our first deal, we got a 118 unit under contract in Atlanta. And it was like, oh my God, it was great. But it wasn't like again, when you're hearing this, you're seeing me on the side of victory. You weren't there when I first got the call for the 118 unit. See, we weren't the first group that won it. It was another group that won it from New York, but they got a call within a day of them owning it that a murder happened on the property.
Oh shit.
Someone got executed on the property.
Wow.
And then the broker comes to me and says, hey, the group dropped out. Do you want it? Or I'm going to go down the list. So that was our moment of faith. First chance to get our first deal done, but we have to deal with a freaking murder on the property day one. But this is where you like check your cojones, and then you're like, let's go. Let's do this. So we checked, we did our due diligence. We talked to the police. We saw this was a freak accident. It's not a theme. This is not a unsafe property or unsafe neighborhood. And so we went for it. And it's been one of our biggest deals ever. We ended up buying that one and the one next door. And we bought the whole thing for $8 million, and we sold the whole thing for $13 million within 3 years.
Damn.
So it was like, cha-ching. Yeah. And then that's when I had the guts to say, all right, I had a dream. My initial dream was to be a cardiologist. My second dream was I want to retire from medicine by the age of 40. And after that exit, I was able to do so. So December 30th, 2018, I hung up my stethoscope as a traditional cardiologist for the last time. And I obviously proceeded to do the clinic. I proceeded to grow my real estate company. And then during the pandemic, another door opened. Whenever a door closes, five new doors open. And in this case, it was people started needing support. A lot of doctors were scared. Their clinics were shut down. Their like surgical centers, their elective surgeries, all the things that maybe were not absolutely needed were shut down because of the pandemic, and they were scared. And that's when they realized that they thought they were safe, but they're actually at risk because everything is in one income stream.
Right.
And that's when people started blowing me up. Like I was on a couple of podcasts, though some of them went viral. They started calling me, and I was spending hours on the phone talking to these guys. And that's when I realized, hey, maybe I have something to offer these guys, And so I started, converting what I was doing into more of an official company. And so I did our coaching and consulting. And that's what led to Limitless MD, which is why we're here at this retreat.
One of the things that I noticed, in the Asian American community, is not a lot of Asian American that has a voice like yours, like mine, like that can speak on camera, and that could actually go out and speak and not be afraid. That's a super strength in its own in the Asian American community. And your energy is super warm, super open, super good vibe. It's crazy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And for you to come from your journey. Yes, you grew up in middle class, but the struggle of entrepreneurship to make things happen. I'm sure there's many times in that period where your back was against the wall to get that property done.
Oh, yeah.
And you were almost lose everything every time.
Sometimes you have to just roll the dice and, on one turn. Yeah. And if it works, you made it. Yeah. But what always in the back of my mind is, okay, worst case scenario, I'll just go back to being a doctor. So I had that, quote unquote, my safety. Right. Which is not a bad backup.
Yeah, no, your backup is someone's main goal.
Yeah, I know. So,
but you work your butt off to get there.
But that's why I was like, let's go. I mean, I can do so much more.
Yeah, that is crazy. Your backup is someone's dream. It's crazy. So, is this the second time you're hosting an event like this?
The second time.
Second time.
Yeah.
Oh, first time here too?
Yeah, it was in October last year.
Oh wow. Yeah. So, why do you host this mastermind?
I think, and I've learned this from some of my mentors, but my first mentor or coach or experience was a book. And in fact, I've been reading this book called The Art of the Impossible by Stephen Kotler, and he talks about of all the different ways that a person can learn, like blogs and social media and podcasts and books and documentaries and all that kind of stuff. Books are the best way to learn, bar none. And the reason why I say that is because a man's life, 15 years of a man's life, you can consume in 5 hours. And so the depth that you get from a book is unmatched. The data density is unmatched. So podcasts, you learn 4 to 8 facts at most. Social media, it's more eye candy, maybe a fact or two, right? It's interest and intrigue, but doesn't necessarily give you depth. And and if you really are on this journey for success, for this epic life, for a legendary way to exist, then you need to go after mastery. And mastery comes with depth.
For me, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. My family's super poor. I'm trying to get my family out of there. But I couldn't keep up with the entrepreneurs like you and other people until I read like 50 self-help books.
Yes.
And once I read those, I could tap into that frequency. Then
Yes.
we're communicating on a different level.
Yes.
And really helps out a lot. And I don't know, I'm starting to make real money now. I don't know, real money is, I'm starting to make people's salary a year in 1 month.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just because your mindset has shifted. So the books were one thing. Then, that's what I could afford at the beginning. And then I was like, oh, I used to listen to some Tony Robbins, like audio, DVD or CDs back and forth when I was driving back from medical school. That was second. The third thing that changed me is when I went to an event, like a live event. And then I was like, wow. And when I came back from the live event, man, my chest was like puffed up. I was like walking and people like in the doctor's office are like, what's wrong with you, man? Are you okay? Is your back hurting? Why are you like pumped up? Like, dude, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's rock it. I have this energy that like this confidence, this exuberance that I can accomplish anything. I'm unstoppable. And it's not going to last forever, but it lasted for a couple of months and it felt good. So I was like, all right, so that's the difference between a book and then modules and then actually going to a live event. And then I got a mentor, and this mentor was he's a Canadian guy and brilliant and always was a positive voice in my ear. So the brain is run by something called the amygdala, which is your fear center. It consistently seeks out negative information to protect you. We hunt for negative information. So if you have to reprogram yourself against your own DNA and your biology, that's what you need, because otherwise you're going to be negative like 99% of the American population. Wow. And so by having this guy in my ear, by reading the good books, by going to conferences, all that, then I started thinking differently. And then it's the competence, right? So I started doing things, so I felt competent, and then that slowly increased my own confidence and my self-esteem. And then I was like, all right, I can do big things, I can do more things, and then it feeds. It's a virtuous cycle. It feeds on itself, and so that's what happened.
Bradley said confidence comes from memories of you winning.
Yes. Yeah, and confidence is all about, you can feel confident for no reason at all, and that's what a narcissist is. And then there's people who are competent, they're really good at what they do, but they are still not confident enough, and those are imposter syndrome. And so the goal is to create evidence so you feel confident, but not feel overconfident like a narcissist. So that's that spectrum there.
How do you balance that?
You have people who ground you when you get a little too high on yourself, but then you also have people who push you, when you feel like you got beat up.
That's good advice.
Yeah. It's your social support.
Throughout your medical career, your real estate career, now it's your coaching program, how many people do you have?
140 people.
Oh, damn, that's a lot of people to be responsible for.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's an honor. I feel like they've trusted me.
Yeah.
And I want to deliver whatever I can and help them in whatever way, because I want to pay it forward. Someone poured into me, and I want to pour into these people.
How is coaching different than like running a normal business?
A coaching business or consulting coaching it's you. You're the brand, you're the DNA, you're the identity of what they're attracted to. And so I have to live the message. So I'm trying to hold myself to a really high standard consistently. So because I have these folks who consider me a mentor and a role model. And so that's one thing. Number two is, and I'm trying to work on this in my company, but right now it's, I am the company in a way. And the goal over time is don't have single person dependency on your company. And so what we're doing is creating modules and creating courses and creating things to where I don't necessarily need to be one-on-one with everyone. And so I'm going from one-to-one to one-to-many to asynchronous to, I've never met Tony Robbins in person per se. I've attended his events, I've gone through his coaching program, but it was other people who were
Put it together,
putting his DNA, and his way of thinking into me. So I was like, that's a way to scale. So there's two ways to do a coaching company. One way is keep it small and intimate, boutique, and just go after a few clients, be very well paid, and that's great. The other way is to create an empire. I'm choosing the second way.
Yeah, you wanted more impact,
Yes.
and you wanted to give opportunity to. Basically, you're just saving more families.
There's 1 million doctors
Mhm.
in the U.S., and I want to at least help 100,000 of them achieve what I call the 5 freedoms.
What is it?
The 5 freedoms are financial freedom, time freedom, vitality freedom, geographic freedom, and mindset freedom. And then there's the 8 forms of wealth, which I can talk about later.
Oh yeah. What's the 8th form of wealth?
Yeah. So Zune, the 5 freedoms are sort of like, hey, you're a freshman or a sophomore.
Uh-huh.
When you're ready to become a junior or a senior, you want to go after the 8 forms of wealth. The 8 forms of wealth are inner wealth. This is like psychological, mental, spiritual, peace of mind, equipoise. Number 2 is family and social wealth, right? This is having your family and having harmony in your relationships. This is also having friends and people who care about you and support you. Number 3 is career wealth. This is your current job, and whether that's something that you're going to do forever or this is a stepping stone to something else, you still want to always leave on top. Just like Jerry Seinfeld left on top, Michael Jordan left on top, you always want to be a master of that craft that you're doing, even if it's not your destiny. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So the next one is economic wealth, which doesn't necessarily need to be connected to your career wealth. Economic wealth could be the multiple streams of income you're trying to do. And so this is your passive income, your real estate investments, your stock investments, your crypto, whatever else you're trying to get into. So those are the first 4. And then the next 4 are your circle of genius. You want to be surrounded by a tribe of philosophically aligned elite performers. You want to be the dumbest, stupidest, fattest person in the room because you're around like beasts. These are beasts. Mm-hmm. Next is adventure wealth. You want to always have something you're looking forward to. Is it a Spartan race? Is it a meditation retreat? Is it what is it you're doing to constantly push the needle of what's possible for you? Is it a workout routine differently? Are you learning a new language or a skill? What is that adventure that you're always chasing? And the last 2 are physical wealth. Obviously, that's your physical vitality. You really, your body is the temple, and there's 3 forms. It's having intense flexibility. It's having robust stamina endurance through cardiovascular training. And finally, muscle mass, muscle strength, and the ability to be explosive with your strength training. If you did those 3 things, that would achieve that physical wealth. And finally, you want to leave an impact. You want to make a dent in the universe. You want to make the world better than when you arrived on it. And so that impact wealth, what's the charity? What's the philanthropy? What are you trying to do? Will you be remembered in 200 years, and for what? These masterminds we're creating, this is what people are starting to get into. We're trying to go, the masterminds, this is the curriculum for the mastermind. Mm-hmm. I created a curriculum that I would want to be enthralled to do, because it's not just anyone can teach you how to make money. Anyone can teach you how to create more time to get a bunch of likes, on social media. But are you creating this legendary, epic life that is delicious and juicy and so tasty that people will talk about you for the next 200 years?
You know how you said the events changes your life? I think the reason why I accelerate so fast in business because we're doing back-to-back mastermind events.
So you're also learning too when you're in there, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but now you said it, and I could put it together in my head, because you're like, reading books one thing, but going to event, that's transformational. But because we keep going back to back with all these crazy events, we're learning so much. My whole team, when we started out, everyone's meal prep, gym, fit, clean now.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're going to a lot of this fitness.
Yeah. So it's our team low key get the best coaching in the world.
Yeah.
That's it.
You get paid to get coached.
I know, but it came together when he was like the events what changes people's lives. So, you know, you achieve all the success. Do you ever like feel like empty inside?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me
I
more.
feel empty inside sometimes because I'm like, what's the point? You know, like if I am I doing too much? Like, you know, well, if I am I not spending enough time with my kids, with my wife,
Hmm.
or should I just dial it down and just hang out with friends and just chill?
Hmm.
And so it's an existential sort of dilemma. I'm like, I feel like I have a drive, desire, gifts, and potential.
Hmm.
Then I also have like a comfortable life that's compelling and calling me and saying, hey, do you need to always work this hard? Or
Hmm.
can you not just chill out and just be with people and be content? And so I don't know what the right answer is, to be honest with you, but I'm doing my best to navigate both, where I hang out with people I care about, I love, and I devote so much energy and time to them. I coach my kids' basketball teams. We have date nights, me and my wife now, much more consistently.
Hmm.
We travel a lot. I just came back from India and Dubai with them. I
What?
went to Mexico. I did the Cancun. I was in Cancun
Uh-huh.
just 3 days ago for a family member's 25th anniversary.
Uh-huh.
And so I think, society wants us to make these false choices when you don't have to. You can have it all, actually.
Mm.
And so that's what I've come to the conclusion of. When I have those struggles and things, it's because probably self-care is dropped and I'm not taking
Mm.
care of myself versus quote unquote I'm doing too much, or I'm pushing beyond what I'm supposed to push. I think it's more like if you take care of yourself, you do self-care, if you sleep enough, if you work out, and you have your time with your people you care about in the world. The there's a book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, and he talks about juggling balls,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes, most of your balls are made out of rubber, so if you drop them, they bounce right back up. But there's two balls made out of glass. It's your health and it's your family. And
Damn.
so those are the two balls I never drop.
Wow. So what keeps you up at night?
Sometimes I'm worried about my businesses. Hey, are we going to be okay? Like during the real estate cycle recently, it's been a challenging year because interest rates went up crazy. Like we went from like interest rates of 3 or 4 to like 8 in 1 year.
Yeah.
And so, my apartment business, it was very challenging, very difficult. And we had to like have war room strategies, and we had to like cut costs, and we had to like, be careful. But we still ended up doing 3 deals this year, which, normally we do 4. So it was still a good year for us,
Hmm.
but it wasn't without some suffering and some sacrifice.
What advice would you give to somebody that are, have their back against the wall? Because I know, like, we're in a recession right now, and a lot of people are, facing bankruptcies. Like, what advice would you give for them to, like, go through that phase and not get stuck? Because if you're stuck, you're dead.
I think stagnation is not an option. I agree with you,
Hmm.
but it's really, really understanding where are you. So figuring out exactly where you are, then it's time to get resourceful. It's really saying, all right, I can only come up with 3 options, but there may be 30 options actually. And then reaching out for help. I've never been shy to get help from for friends and from coaches and from mentors or colleagues. Even competitors I've gotten help from.
Mm.
And so it's not, I don't have shame. It's like drop the shame, drop the ego, drop everything, and do what it takes to take care of your company, because your company or your business is like a baby, and you'll do anything to save your family.
Fire. So, when you're a coach and you have 130 plus people depending on you, from my point of view, I'm not a coach, I'm just a filmmaker. What I'm seeing is like I'm helping out my staff and things, and I'm taking on their problem. I'm basically becoming their coach too. But like, when you're a coach, like you take on a lot of negative energy from people and you hold it. How do you like not let it affect your life?
Yeah, that's a good one. There, it's the type of people you want to coach. So at the beginning, when I was trying to coach, I didn't know much,
Hmm.
and so you're ready to invest and pay.
Hmm.
I was like, all right, come join me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, I was coaching them, I was giving them every single strategy. I was helping them. I was brainstorming with them. I would even like call them when I'm even between coaching calls to push them.
Hmm.
what I realized was this is not my client. This is not the right type of person. So similar to any business, know your avatar, know your right client, and I call it the velvet rope philosophy. You know, like you want to go to like we're in Fontainebleau right now, and they have one of the top clubs in Miami. It's called Live or Live, and it's hard to get into. There's a velvet rope. There's a bouncer there, and he only likes select people in. And if you're a bunch of dudes, forget it. You know, usually you have some ladies, right? So similarly, in your business, in your life, in your relationships, even, and definitely in my coaching, I'm letting go of the 5s, the 6s, the 7s, and now I only want 8, 9s, and 10s in my company, in my coaching program, because they're already hungry, they're already motivated, they're already looking for success, and now I get to just guide them and push them and get them to where they want to go, and so it energizes me versus draining me, and so if I come up with someone super negative, they're probably not my type of people. They're not my coaching client. There may be I may refer them to someone else. But I want to play with great people so I can make them extraordinary. Yeah, I'd rather say no and use my time for my own things or work on my business and myself than take on a client that's not the caliber that I want to play with.
And when you start your business beginning, you had to take those crazy clients.
Yeah, at the beginning you don't know what you don't know, so you just go for it, right?
There's a lot of stress too with those type of clients because some of the low ticket ones are the one that demand the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in real estate, we used to take $25,000 investments. Now we don't do that. 50 is the minimum, and then even now we're thinking about eventually making $100,000 minimum to invest with us in our company, Viking Capital. But sometimes the $3 to $5 million guys are so much easier to work with than the 50 or 100K guys. And then similarly, I just launched my highest level of my coaching. It's called Project Helios, and it's a 100K coaching client to work with me. And man, I rarely hear from him, while the people in my 8K, 9K program, I hear from all the time. So it's interesting, right? It's inverse relationship with the price. And here's a quote that someone told me: if you don't pay, you don't pay attention.
I think the reason why the guys that pay the most need the least amount of attention is because they're so busy. They're living it more.
Yeah.
And they just need like pointers from you in the right direction.
Like I'm working with one of my coaches, Bedros. I mean, I'm probably his ideal client because I barely call him. I know what to do. I can self-coach 95% of it. Yeah. Occasionally, he gives me these few tweaks, and they're powerful tweaks, but they're just, he can give to me in 30 minutes, and I'm done.
Wow. Like, I notice a lot of Wes's clients, like when they blow up. But they're like winning avatars. And it's crazy because I feel like coaching is also like an individual by himself or herself. They can only do so much, but when they feel like they belong to a group or tribe, for some reason, they're doing the same thing but 10 times better.
Yeah, so when I started coaching, Zune, I only coached one-on-one, and then I decided to introduce my coaching clients together. So I created a group WhatsApp just out of the whim, and that really was very helpful. Like, people loved it. And then I decided, all right, let's meet up at events together. Not my event, but someone's event, and I'll create an event there, just a mini event. Yeah. And then the people love that. And then I said, okay, I'm going to create a mastermind, and I'm going to create a retreat just for the mastermind folks. But then I was like, hey, let me just invite everyone there. And so that's what this ended up becoming. And so now people love coming to these. In fact, some people don't even come to the coaching calls. They don't come to everything. They just come to these events, and they go, "Oh man, I got my money's worth." More like you're the Jeff Anzalone client than
you're more like technical, but you also know how to tap into emotion. So before we wrap up the podcast, I want to know, what's your next big move for the next 12 months?
I recently started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so my goal is to try to become a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I am doing a pretty cool elite mastermind where I'm going to be going to Whistler, Canada, and I'm going to be meeting with some of the top financial people in the world so I can get a glimpse of what's going to happen with the world economy, and so I can coach all my clients on this as well as all my investors. And there may be a couple of billionaires there.
Oh.
And then me and my wife I've been living in our current home for about 10 years now, and we've been thinking about maybe doing our dream home. And so our goal is to get that done by the summer. And then one of my friends is running a company. There's a person called Cody Sanchez and Alex Ramosi, whom people know.
Yeah.
And what they do is they buy businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I buy real estate and I coach. But now I have an opportunity to be a consultant and, have a piece of a company where we're going to be buying service-based businesses, boring blue-collar businesses,
Yeah.
and wrapping them together and selling them for multiples to private equity.
It's like a roll-up model.
Yes. So
Next billionaire right here.
So it's exciting, 2024.
And if you could have the mic to the world for 1 minute, what would you want to tell?
Believe in yourself. This crazy kid, with acne back in the day, with getting beat up and then getting suspended from school in 6th grade for hitting a kid on the head with a trumpet, that didn't have the highest SAT scores, didn't have the highest, academics, somehow figured out how to do all of this. That means you guys can too. I'm nothing special. I just had a lot of people who believe in me, and I just worked my tail off. That's it. So go for it.